Rosemary?
More questions, but still no answers.
Can you talk to us about the petition calling for you to resign? Are you going to resign?
No comment.
There's thousands of people who've called for you to resign. You're not going to resign?
No comment.
Rosemary Carroll at her first council meeting since making international headlines for all the wrong reasons. Outside the meeting, things were just as heated.
Mate, we're here to oppose racism, not any form. And you should be doing the same thing.
People have gathered here outside Nelson Town Hall to protest the reinstatement of Councillor Rosemary Carroll to the Conservative Party. They've been chanting things like Pendle Tories out, and if it's not acceptable at Turf Moor, it's not acceptable at the Town Hall.
He used a defibrillator and he kept Tony Jones alive for the 41 minutes when he didn't have a pulse.
You're being quite modest, which is very unlike you, because you had BBC training, hadn't you, first day training, and actually you walked into that meeting and you clocked where the defib was on the wall, didn't you? And when it happened, you legged it out and actually got the defib, and you travelled with Tony in the ambulance, didn't you?
Well, yeah, bizarre. I would have never have had any idea what to do. I've never done a first aid course before. I would have previously ran a mile, but like you said, the big boss sent me on a first aid course to the BBC, and what it really gave me, rather than any kind of medical expertise, was just the confidence to, in that situation, not panic, and to just kind of do the right thing. And like you say, just out of curiosity, little things like clocking where the defib is and knowing that you need next of kin details and things like that. And that's what these Lancashire Lifesavers sessions will provide.
First, let's go to BBC reporter Mike Stevens. He's been on Winter Hill. I know you've gone down to the bottom of it now, Mike. What's the latest?
Yeah, I'm at the foot of Winter Hill at the minute, Jeremy, at the emergency service base here, but we've just had a trip up to the top of Winter Hill. And about 3 weeks ago, I came for a walk here, walked from one side of Winter Hill to the other side of Winter Hill, and it is luscious green moorland normally. And now, when you walk out there, it's just ashen black. It is like something from a film. The fires are actually out, but it's still contained within the ground. And this is the big problem with peat, because you can extinguish the fires on the surface, but it still rumbles on at an intense temperature deep down in the peat, and it travels. So what we're seeing now is pockets of fire, what they call flare-ups, popping up wherever the fire can find fuel. So sometimes that might be some tinder dry grass, it might be some bushes, or in the fire service worst case scenario, it might be a woodland area or a small forest, and that's what they're trying to avoid. They're trying to avoid this fire, which at the minute is contained from spreading to anything like that.
And you have seen...
Senior Tories on your group, Conservative councillors, have described the situation to me as a farce, and at the same time, one of your councillors resigned from the group last week after saying that he'd been intimidated, even saying that he felt threatened by another member of the group in the gents' toilets at County Hall. You've got to admit that there is an issue.
No, that issue that you've just referred to is between the individual county councillor and the Conservative group whip.
With all this going on, do you not think that transparency is so important at Lancashire County Council at the minute? And if that's the case, why were the press and public banned from the Cabinet meeting 2 weeks ago against the Council's own solicitor's advice?
Well, I don't know where you got that last bit from. Nobody gave any advice whatsoever that the press and public should be excluded, and what you failed to report...
This is about a restructure.
Divulged is in public, and that's wrong.
This is about a restructure to the senior management team, and the council's own solicitor said it doesn't fall within the specified categories that mean the press and public should be excluded. They say there's no reason or proper justification for the item to have been considered so, and that it breaks the council's constitution, the local government legislation. The press and public should have been allowed in to see what was going on.
Well, that advice was not given to the Cabinet.
It's understood there's now doubt surrounding the planned creation of around 4,500 jobs. Well, the man who found out about the story is our political reporter, Mike Stevens. Mike, what do we know?
Well, only a couple of months back, this was all looking rosy. Like you said, construction had started on the site. They've already done some surveying work, some tree felling work. And that's continued since then. There was absolutely no indication that this was about to happen. I mean, I spoke to some senior sort of key people about this last night, and this was the first they'd heard of it.
You've been in politics for a long time now. Is this something you've experienced firsthand?
Yeah. I mean, I experience it in all aspects of my life, to be honest. I mean, not as much as I get older, but certainly when I was younger, of course.
In what forms?
Well, apart from being groped and flashed at in the street? I mean, there's all of that.
That's happened to you?
Of course it's happened to me. It's happened to everybody. Ask any of the women in this room who it hasn't happened to. It happens to all of us. Of course it does. Of course it does. But then there's also the point about being assaulted by people who you're close to or you've got acquaintances with. That's different. And then there's a more subtle sort of power relationship, I think, which is quite difficult to know what you do about, is kind of older, powerful men saying, do you want to be my friend? Because if you want to be my friend, I'll be your friend. If you want a hand, then I can help you, but I expect you to be close.